Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. This is the beginning of our series, Surviving COVID-19. Today's topic is on leading your team and HR perspective. We are really happy to have you guys on the call today, online today with us. And I just want to make sure that you can hear me. If you can hear me, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, or you can send a private message in the chat. That'll be really appreciated. If you cannot hear me, I recommend that you log out and log right back in. Make sure your volume is cranked right up because you do not want to miss any of this presentation at all. During the presentation, you will remain on mute and your video will remain off to have a smooth transition throughout the presentation. We are recording a session, so don't you dare worry. It will be available once we've concluded. With that said, time now for some housekeeping tips.
Questions will be accepted at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you can definitely use the raise your hand button and you'll be acknowledged, or you can use the chat option as well. About HiBeaver. HiBeaver was founded in 2015, and we are a company that is mostly known for our HR or business solutions. We focus on recruitment services, human resources consultancy, payroll services, career expositions, training programs, document processing, and we also have a job board whereby we advertise local jobs within the BVI. Your host today is myself, Rekeema Turnbull, and I'm dedicated to seeing individual teams and organizations succeed. I have over 15 years of combined experience in various industries, and my educational background includes a Master of Business Admin in Global Management, a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting, a Level 7 Diploma in Strategic Management and Leadership, Six Sigma Green Belt certification, and certification in Business Continuity Management. Currently, I serve as the Managing Director of HiBeaver, and I'm also the Finance HR Admin Manager for CCT. A special thank you at this time to ATU, who is a sponsor of this program today, or this session in particular. And ATU is a trust company located in the BVI that holds a Class 1 trust license. They offer a comprehensive range of fiduciary and corporate management services and has been successfully operating in the BVI since 1995 and is a member of ATU Group, which was founded in 1929. Today, your presenter is Shondrea in Turnbull. Sandra, very similar to myself, is also dedicated to seeing individuals, teams, and organizations thrive. She has over 15 years of combined experience in diverse economic sectors, and her educational background includes a Bachelor of Arts in Finance, a Master of Divinity, and a Master of Business Admin in Organizational Development. She's currently the HR manager for ATU Trust, and she told me to tell you guys that she and her husband has 3 children, including twins. Shondrea, I'm going to take it over to you at this time.
All right. I hope everyone can hear me. I am now unmuted. Thank you so much, Rekeema, for even introducing me and offering me this opportunity to speak to your people. So first, thank you to Rekeema and thank you to the whole team at HiBeaver. Also need to just say a thank you to ATU General Trust, not only the staff members, the awesome staff members who I serve, but of course, senior management and the board of directors as well. And most importantly, I have to thank all of you who are tuned in. Right now, we're at 21 participants. You still have time to share the link with your friends, your professional colleagues, anyone who is a leader. They don't even have to be in human resources because we're talking about leadership today. So you still have time to share that link with them as well. Now, I'm not going to be before you too long because we want to really have a dialogue today. I will do a little bit of presenting and give you some information, some practical knowledge. But what's so important is, especially in this time of social distancing, that we can connect with each other. And thank goodness for Zoom and this technology that allows us to do so. So before we even switch slides, we're going to stay on this slide. And one thing I want to talk about is mindfulness. Mindfulness. Now, if anybody is on the call from ATU or any of my friends or family, you've heard me talk about mindfulness and meditation as well. Now, I know you didn't tune in to get a lesson on meditation today, but I will start with the definition of mindfulness because it really nicely frames our conversation for today. Mindfulness is understanding what is going around you externally. It's understanding what is going on internally within your body, mind, and soul. And then you are making the choice how you want to react based on the external circumstances and based on the internal circumstances. Now, the reason we're starting with this today is because we all on this call, on this webinar, know that there's a lot going on with this pandemic. If you're in the BVI, most recently at the House of Assembly yesterday, it was revealed that there is a case that tested positive here in the hospital, but still has to go over to Trinidad for the final results. That being said, our family, our community, our friends, for lack of better words, are panicking and freaking out. And everyone on this call is a leader. And so we understand what's going on around us, but it's important to understand how we are directly and personally impacted within us. And I'm just so thankful to everyone here on this Zoom seminar, because you have made the choice, despite what's going on, that you will be a light in the midst of the darkness. And that is what we need more of. We need more leaders at this time. It's a dark time for many people. Many people can't even, pick themselves up to be the light. But you all on this call are the lamps. You are the light to bring leadership. So with that said, we're going to go straight into the next slide of the presentation. And thank you so much, Rekeema, for doing the slides for me, for moving forward on the slides with me. But first, we're going to talk about 5 elements. And the first being voice. The second being influence. The third, mindset. The fourth, communication. And the fifth, power. Now, voice. You may be wondering, okay, yes, we're talking about leadership. We're talking about how I can lead my team. Why are we starting off with voice? Well, the leadership of your company is looking for you to help steer them clear from the mire, the muck, the misinformation regarding this virus. And the world economy has been impacted. We see this. Therefore, our clients are impacted, no matter what industry you're in. So it's important that we all do our research, that we all prepare briefings, and we help steer the company in the way of leadership. So with your voice, I implore you to drink some water, clear your throat, and speak up, because your voice needs to be heard. Now, if you have years of HR experience, HR has been an evolving career throughout, especially the last 20 or so years. HR professionals, whether you're HR officer, HR assistant, HR manager, director, or even a managing director, you see that now HR members are getting a seat at the table, if you will, and getting positions in the C-suite, which means that HR managers and professionals are now having the opportunity to really use our voice. But it's very new. It's very new for people. So it's important for you, as you're using your voice, to know your staff and to look at your role in a new way, to state your opinion, even if it's not popular. And with your voice, understanding that no matter what happened before the pandemic, what you were doing, and some HR roles are administrative in nature, but right now it's time for us to really break outside of our comfort zone. And it will look different for each one of us, because we're in different industries, but we are called to lead the way in a new way. And again, as I said, to state your perspective. Going on to influence. So we talked about using your voice and breaking out of your comfort zone. So once you have gained your voice, once you're feeling bold enough to speak up, your insight is instrumental. So it's important to start here, because any type of leadership that you will move forward with, whether it's talking with a senior management team or if you have to have a meeting with staff members, before you even have that conversation, understand and believe within yourself that your insight is instrumental. Even if you're not the CEO, you have important information and insight in how staff can react to this pandemic. Now, we're speaking specifically about leadership during the COVID-19 crisis, but some of these, actually all of these elements that we'll speak about today can definitely be utilized even after the pandemic. So use this time to start trying out your influence if you haven't really had the opportunity in the past. So again, do your research. Research first so that what you say, you can speak with power, and you can speak with clarity, you can speak clearly. Do your research into what other companies and industries and companies are doing to cope with the pandemic, and then use your intellect to craft a contingency plan for the company. Now, we all know that, the best made plans are sometimes a joke, but having a plan A, and in my personal experience, a plan B, C, and D, as well as a best case and a worst case scenario for each of those plans, will allow you to have some peace no matter what changes on a day-to-day basis. So influence is being prepared. It's about knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to, what type of information is most important to them, and making sure that you research appropriately so that you're communicating that information. But influence is also digging deep within. If you look on the right side of the screen, you see a snapshot of a book. And throughout this, I want to make it very, very practical. We'll only be speaking for a few minutes, so it will be great if after this presentation, you can do some additional research on your own. So I've listed a few resources, and a great one is a book by Dr. Valerie Young, and it's called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women: How Capable People Suffer from the Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It. I read this book a couple years ago, and actually got it from one of my colleagues from Johns Hopkins. And we did kind of like a book group together, and I've recommended it for a few other leaders that I know. But if you've ever heard about imposter syndrome, it's basic, or I should say, if you've never heard about imposter syndrome, it's basically when you feel like you're in a position and for some reason you don't deserve to be there. Now, I, in my past, have felt like this from time to time, whether it's in taking on a new role, a promotion, switching jobs, going to a different industry. When you're a novice, you can often think, how did I get here in the first place? And sometimes that thought, even though it comes, it can go away very quickly. But for others, literally every time you have a new situation, you're thinking, well, why am I here? Am I supposed to be here? Maybe it's someone else who's better qualified. They're going to figure out that I don't know. And there are lots of men and women who face this on a daily basis. So if you're one of those people, then I would definitely recommend this book. And understand you're not crazy for feeling that way. A lot of people do, but it gives you some salient practical ways to kind of get beyond that and provide some research to why we may think like that. But to end this slide, having those courageous conversations after you've dug deep within yourself will definitely help you get over the feeling as you don't have a voice, or you don't belong, or the management will never listen to me, or everyone is going crazy. What is my voice going to do? What is my role going to do? Yes, we may think that, but we need to put that to the side. Understand we're not imposters. We are leaders, and we are in our leadership positions for a reason. So next, we're going to transition to mindset. I'm actually going to start off with the resource that I recommend before I switch into talking a little bit about how it relates to us. There's a book by Dr. Carol Dweck. Not sure how many people have heard of it, but it's called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And I definitely recommend this book. It talks about the shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and that shift starting with us as leaders. And again, I'm honing in on us as individuals. It's important for us to have this internal confidence and internal mindset that what we say matters and that we can influence change based on our experience, our research, our degrees, our industries, all that we bring to the table. But we can't influence change and we can't lead effectively if our mindset isn't towards a growth mindset for the company. Now, is there anything wrong with a fixed mindset? No, it's needed in certain circumstances. But in this time where we're called to be flexible, adaptable, because decisions are being made on a daily basis, literally hourly basis, not only within the BVI, but within our region and in neighboring countries as well. It's important to have that growth mindset, understanding that no matter the decision I made for today, based on my contingencies plan, I can always grow and I can always figure out a new way to handle a new situation. So you're basically adopting a mind that grows and doesn't slow down, a mind that is capitalizing and taking advantage of the situation in a positive way, in the sense that you're able to be nimble, that you're able to be on top of the game, so that when people are floundering, they're able to come to you for that stability. Remember, your role as an HR leader is so important, or even if it's not, you're not specifically in HR, but if you're a manager for a team of people, or whether it's a team of your peers, or you're managing your household, you're managing your church, you're managing your small business. Doesn't matter if you have one person or 10 people who are following you, your mindset will set the tone for how they also respond. Now, with that said, just because you have a growth mindset does not automatically mean that everyone around you will, but it's important to know that that shift starts with you. And once you start to shift your mindset to a mindset that is growing, that is changing, that is flexible, that is adaptable, that's meeting the needs of the people, people will start to take notice, and hopefully they'll start to shift with you. And the second point we talk about looking long and looking wide. That's not only looking at the situation right now for what it is, because people, when they're panicked, of course, and most people will be, they're only looking at immediate and they're only looking at a small set of data. But as HR leaders, we're called to look wide. Just think if you're in a car and you're looking at your rear view mirror, you're not only looking ahead of you, but you're looking at your rear view mirror, you're looking at your side mirror, you have to change the direction of your head sometimes, and you're looking in all directions, because the passenger or the people who are following you, they're only looking ahead most of the time. But you as a leader, you should be training yourself to look at several aspects, so then you can bring in your HR, your leadership point of view to the table. And with that, I've already talked about it a little bit, but it's promoting this strategic mental shift. It's a little bit lonely if you're the only person in the room who would have a growth mindset. So as you're growing, I also implore you to bring some people along with you along the way, so that you all start to build a team as well of people who are thinking ahead. All right, now we're going to transition to communication. Now, communication, we could literally spend hours talking about all the different types of communication, but let's stay focused on how we can communicate during this pandemic, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. But as leaders, we should rely on the first-hand sources rather than the third-party news sources. If you get insight from a news site, then fact check it. This is my humble recommendation. Fact check it before presenting the data or the information to your leadership team. Now at ATU, we have not only a crisis management team, but in the wake of this pandemic, we also created a COVID-19 specific crisis management team, and it's made up of key members within the company. And with that, we've had daily briefings as well. And so with that, if you are a leader, if you have the ability to create a team like that or suggest it to your managing director, or if you are the managing director, possibly integrate a team like this so that you have a limited amount of voices, but people who are looking at all elements of this pandemic, so that decisive and quick and flexible and adaptable decisions can be made at a moment's notice, so that you're even trying to stay ahead of the curve. Now, is that daunting sometimes? Yes, because how can you stay ahead of the curve of an entire global economy? We can't, but we can have plan A, B, C, D, best case scenarios for each, and contingency plans. And with that said, it will be challenging to stay on top of all of the news. But again, if you have your team, if you have your peers with you to help do the research and everybody looking at a different aspect, then that definitely will help in making the solid, concise communication that needs to go out to your staff and your company. As leaders, be the ears and the eyes for your senior management team or your board of directors. In my experience speaking to staff, understanding their concerns. Literally, at ATU, we spoke to every single person in the organization before we laid out of our plans. This is my standpoint, and I'm sure for many other HR professionals. Literally, we have a passion for the people, and we understand that the people are the greatest assets. So reaching out to them, not to say that we can take every single suggestion they've made, but we can at least consider it. And what I would also say with that is to help them when there are gaps in understanding, especially if there's competing information. You have external information from news and WhatsApp forwards and things like that in social media, but having a clear communication within the organization, again, no matter if you're 5 people, 50 people, or 500 people, and keeping the people's desires and what you have learned from your conversations with them, also including that and embedding that within your communication, may make it a bit easier for staff to be able to digest it, especially if there are stark changes that the organization has to make. And each one of our organizations, we have to weigh if we have to do cost-cutting methods. Some organizations, unfortunately, have to do some layoffs at this time. So again, I'm not trying to make light of any of this or saying that it's easy, but as leaders, we must dig deep to communicate so that it's easier and people aren't just circling around in their minds wondering, well, what's going to happen next? I will add a point for communication is that once you communicate via email, try to utilize multiple types of communication, whether it's email, stop and have some personal conversation, of course, with social distancing. So whether that's on the phone, whether it's a Zoom call, whether it's a personal email versus a group email or a chat or a WhatsApp video, utilize technology in order to connect with people at this time. Even if you're HR and they typically don't see your face often, maybe just, send them a picture or have that call so nobody on your team feels alone and everyone feels empowered during this time. Also, just to set the bar, the pandemic is new for anyone. So be easy on yourself. Don't think that you have to figure out every single thing, because we are only human. There's only so much that we can do. But understanding that you can still utilize resources to help you. If you are new to HR, a new leader, or recently promoted into a leadership position, you can go to an organization called SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resources Management, and you can register there, and they have a multitude of templates, forms, research, case study, and the latest developments. I will say, as a disclaimer, it is US based, and so you will have to do make some strategic decisions on what actually is applicable to your organization. As we move to the next slide, we're going to talk about power. This is the last one. So we've talked about using your voice, your influence, your mindset, communicating clearly in all lines of the organization. But number one, as far as being an HR leader or a leader in any right over a team, is embracing your intrinsic power and exhibiting your strengths. You have to be strong within yourself in order to be strong for others. It's very hard to be there for everyone else, as we often have to do literally every single day as leaders. We can't give onto others if we're not supplying ourselves. So taking a moment to just do some stock and say, okay, what am I strong at, and how can I exemplify more of my strengths during this time? This time during the pandemic is not our time to beat up on ourselves because of our weaknesses or things that we're not good at. This is the time for us to exemplify our strengths and understand that everything that we have been through in the past, every job you've had, all the grunt work that you've had to do, all the struggles has prepared you for this moment so that you can lead. So you have everything within you to be a success and to make it through this pandemic. We will all make it through this pandemic. And as you're looking within yourself, defining what success means to you. You don't have to write a 5-page, long memo or a long, just jot down a couple points. What does success mean to you? How does it impact your company? How does it impact your team? And again, influencing your staff to embrace their power as well. So once you, even if it's for a glimmer of amount of time, once you feel that power and you're embracing your strengths, sharing that with your peers, sharing that with your leadership team, sharing that with staff, because you can only do so much to empower other people. It is their job as individuals to also try to empower themselves. And so as you are growing, as your mind shift is changing, as you are getting over the imposter syndrome, it is also allowing you to then lead and help and guide other people. And having that empathy, especially that if that's the word for the year, I would say we need to adopt it. Empathy and understanding that how the staff feel, especially with so much uncertainty. They may have friends, they may have family members who are being laid off. They may be the breadwinners in their family. So even as we're making a human element in mind. Now, if you are an HR leader, you probably naturally always think of these things, but maybe have struggled in the past. How can I get my peers? How can I get the senior partners to understand this different element, the human element of the strategic change that we have to make? But now is the time to voice it. Now is the time to try. Now, does it mean that the leadership team will automatically adopt what you have to say? We can't control that, but you can control what you tell them. You can control the suggestions and the recommendations that you make. You can control how concise they are, how clear they are, how well developed they are. You can control how much research you put into it. And how clear the plan is. That is what you have control over. And you have control over using all of your experience, again, for such a time as this. So I want to end with just saying, as a leader, take care of yourself. make sure that you are okay. Make sure you are getting your rest. Make sure that you are in the best position that you can be to lead. And if you have a moment where you need to break down, reach out to a peer. At the end of this, Rekeema will share my contact information as well. Let's continue this conversation, because as a leader, it can often feel lonely. You're no longer with your group of peers and the staff. Maybe you're so you may feel like a middle manager, and often the middle managers are the ones who have the most struggle, because you're walking a fine line between how staff look to you and how the manager, and that balancing act can sometimes be a bit frustrating with the amount of power and influence that one would typically have. But again, things are shifting. The world has literally shifted during this pandemic. And so now is the time to really utilize that power and that influence that you've always had, but maybe not tapped into the way that is needed now. So with that said, I think we have one more slide, but this kind of transitions us more to a discussion point. So I want to shoot it back to Rekeema to open us up for some dialogue.
Thank you for that, Shondrea. That was very informative presentation. I did enjoy it thoroughly, and I'm sure there are many others on the call that also enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there's anyone on the call that would like at this time to ask any questions to myself or even Sandra, we are actually open right now for questions. You can, like I said, you can use the raise hand option so that we have some kind of order, not everyone rushing to the mic at the same time. Or if you're not as brave, then you can use the chat option. You can post your question in there to me privately, and then I'll be the brave one to ask on your behalf. We have Nikki Rubain, who has raised her hand. Nikki, I'll meet you shortly. Go ahead, Nikki.
I just wanted to ask one of the frequently asked questions. How can I help struggling staff?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for your question and tuning in. It could be in a number of ways. We talked about communication earlier, so I would start there. Speaking with staff, all staff members. As long as you don't have, 1,000 staff members and it's only you, it should be fine. Even if you have, 10, 20 staff members, speak with them on an individual basis first, just to do an assessment to see if anyone is in need. How are they feeling? So not only how are they physically feeling, because at this time, of course, as leaders, we want to make sure we're managing even though we don't usually, we're not this usually intrusive, but understanding if they are having any symptoms, reaching out, so that if they are worried about going to the hospital or worrying about calling us, kind of being that intermediary, but how are they mentally feeling as well, emotionally feeling? Do they have enough, if they have the opportunity to work remotely, do they have all of the technology? If they have the technology, are they getting through? So I think that's the first step as far as communication. And then once you have an assessment of how they're doing in any element, any aspect that I just mentioned, then figuring out as a company how you can reach out to hopefully bring that gap together. So to go fill in the gap. For example, we had some accountants, and of course they're usually used to looking at two screens because they're looking at monitors. We have two screens for them in the office, but if you're working remotely, you just have a laptop. After some communication, we realized this point, and so we were in a position as a company to provide them with another monitor at home. And so we initiated that. We got them the monitor. We followed up with them to check with them to see how their productivity is now. And if we needed to further troubleshoot, we did. If not, then, we just checked in with them from time to time. So that's what I would say, communication, then assess where you can help as a company. And then it has to be a very personal decision. If the company can't help, do you want to reach out to a third party and try to get some help for that person? Let's say it's with food or something like that, or with transportation. Or do you even want, not to say that I recommend this, it's very personal, or as a individual, do you want to help that staff member out? Nikki, is that, I kind of gave a general answer, but is that does that answer your question, or did you have something more specific in mind?
Yes, you answered well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. What other questions do we have?
I don't have any in chat right now. Do we have any other questions at this time?
Or comments, scenarios? It's so important for us to just collaborate and communicate with each other, just so we understand that it's no silly scenario or anything like that. And all of us have a different aspect that we may be struggling with. I'll go into one of the FAQs that are on here regarding layoffs, because I know that is a worry for your teams, for many people. And I would again go back to looking, regardless of your level within the organization, hopefully layoffs would be a last measure for most companies. I'm not in a position, of course, to tell everyone's company what to do. But, in this pandemic, figuring out ways to calm the fears of staff members will be important, and it'll be different for each person that you're dealing with, because like I said earlier, some people are breadwinners within their household or within their family, and so just meeting them where they are, understanding what their concern could be, and then just addressing it directly with people. Sometimes it doesn't even need to be addressed as a whole company, because you may be adding more stress, anxiety, and pressure to people if you bring up the conversation of layoffs. But if somebody is coming to you on an individual basis, or because of your relationship with your team, that certain staff members may have this question, or may have a specific level of anxiety around this topic, then just being proactive and reaching out to them before they can even, start to spread their worry to maybe other peers or other team members within the company would be recommended.
Okay, Shondrea, we have a few questions. One of the questions goes, will you be doing this session again? Yes, we will be doing sessions hereafter. It will not be this session, but we have planned for other sessions. For example, how do I work from home remotely? How do I support my staff that are working from home remotely? Other sessions like IT session, security, because while you're working remotely, your staff are on their laptops. Some have personal laptops, some have company laptops. But what is a VPN, for example? How do I secure my company files while my employees are working remotely? So we will have other sessions in the future. We're trying to do it every Friday at 1 p.m. going forward. So you will be given that information. That is why registration was also key as well, because we don't have your email address. So we will remain in contact with you all. I have another comment here. It says, I have encouraged my employees to use the employee assistance program, as a lot of my staff members are reserved when it comes to their personal life and households. So that was one person commenting. Thank you for that comment as well. I also have a question here. It says, how to calm the fears of the men in our company, as they are breadwinners in their family. A lot of them are the only persons working. The wives are stay-at-home moms. I'll repeat it. The question is how to calm the fears of men in our company, as they are breadwinners in their family. A lot of them are the only persons working. Their wives are stay-at-home moms.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. I hope you guys can hear me now. I think those are excellent questions. For the first comment/question that was made, I would go back to, I think Rekeema is going to send the slides, but go back to that communication slide. And if you don't already, gather a small team within your company. Now, I know different companies have, different sizes, but at least the IT manager, human resources manager, whoever the ultimate leader is. So whether it's a managing director and maybe somebody who's in charge of risk, or whoever is in charge of your legal team, or even if you're outsourcing that, have the conversation with them so all heads can be at the table so that you can all start to get a plan together. And then as far as some of the questions or some of the seminars that will be had in the future regarding the IT capabilities for the long term. What does it look like for our company 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now? What are some measures that we can take to try to the risk to our staff members, or our team leads as well, those people that we lead. So start with that small group if you can, and again, tap in every Friday so that you can be well versed and be around a community of people to discuss some of these elements. For the second question regarding the men, definitely, as you are empowering yourself, directly empower them. They do have a unique role. And I know you specifically said men, so even some of the conversations that I have do an extra level of empowerment to them as well, so that they are reassured, and that they can also be involved in some of the decision making. So it's HR is typically, statistically, a female dominated field, if you will. And sometimes it may be hard, not in all cases, but in some cases, it may be hard for, not as easy for some men to take instruction from women, but especially in this case, allowing them to have some influence and impact on the decisions, I think is especially key during this time, not to just be told to do, what to do by the government. And if we're empathizing with their situation, we don't want them to feel powerless, because the objective for all of us, of course, is for our companies to continue to grow and to thrive despite the pandemic. We don't want to have to close doors. We don't want to have to lay off several people. We want to keep productive, because once our clients are happy, our customers are happy, etc., then we all have jobs and we have that security. But asking them for their input, and how we can get through this. What solutions do you have? What innovation? Think about out the box. And then they're contributing, they're using their own power within themselves to help to bring a solution, to help you bring a solution to the company. I think that will be one element. And then somebody mentioned, I think Rekeema mentioned it earlier, that people are using the employee assistance. I think that's great as well. If it is beyond you, if it's a question or feeling beyond your capability, it is okay to then reach out to a psychologist, or the government EAP system as well. The wellness center, Dr. Mike is there, and they have several other psychologists to help people, to help us through it, as well as you can recommend your male team members to speak with someone. Maybe they don't want to speak to a woman, maybe they don't want to speak to their boss. And so reaching out to a male professional on their level may be a good and welcome change as well. So it's okay if you don't have all of the answers, somebody who does. Okay,
Thank you for that,
Rekeema, back
Sandra.
over to you.
Thank you. We have one question, and because we are pressed for time, we'll take this question. If you have any more, we take at least one more after this one. But the question is, small businesses who don't have the ability to work from home, how do we manage our employees' expectations about the possibility of not being paid as the office is not functioning?
Sure. I think that goes back to our slide on influence, and first starting with ourselves, doing the research and being as innovative as possible to figure out if there are ways outside of the norm where the person can be utilized. I'll give a personal example. At ATU, we have HR and logistics team, and some members of if you're not obviously in any company around the world, you have your business lines and you have your support lines. You have your business departments and your support departments. And oftentimes in the support departments, those are the positions pre-pandemic that possibly couldn't work for home. And that's the same with some small businesses. And so the conversation that I had with the team is that, okay, who can work remotely? What tasks can you do? Who cannot work remotely? What are other tasks that we've wanted at the time to do? Let's think out of, so these are some of the discussion. Let's think out of the box to figure out how else we can meet the needs of the company, even though it's something we've never done. And from those conversations of that dialogue, having everybody at the table, not me just making the decision, but having everyone at the table, we were able to create solutions for those people whose jobs normally did not involve them being able to work remotely. And now I will say for at least for everybody on the team, they're going above and beyond what they used to do, because now we've opened our minds, thought out the box to figure out solutions that we didn't even know were needed. And as we're seeing all over the world, the essential employees are the real MVPs here. They're the ones who are keeping everything grounded, moving, and going while those are working remotely. Now that works in some scenarios. So I would start there to see if there is anything within your small business that those people can do that they didn't traditionally do. And don't give yourself the excuse to say, well, we haven't done it before, so we can't do it now. Take that phrase out of your vocabulary, out of your language, and think innovation, think growth, think what can happen differently. For some small businesses, it also may involve you having a slight shift in your normal operations. So whereas maybe before you were person to person, face to face, does that mean that now your business, for some, has to be virtual or has to be done in a different way? I don't have all of the answers, but I think it definitely starts with the dialogue and how we can do something different, and just beating the conversation up to at least figure out one scenario and how you can change your normal operations to something that can, one, meet the needs within this pandemic and then beyond. I will say in some industries, like a manufacturing industry, if you're hands-on like this, it will take a deeper level of thought and consideration, and I can speak with those people. We can stay connected after if you need some help brainstorming, if you really just can't figure it out.
Thank you so much for that, Chandra. I realize that we are coming up close to the 2:00 hour. We have about 4 minutes left. So at this time, we'll basically wrap up, because we did tell you guys we only want 1 hour of your time. So we will take 1 hour of your time.
Yes,
on the screen right now, you see Chandra's contact information. I've also been so kind as to put it in the chat. So you can always find it in the chat. You can save it there as well. And I'll move right on to the next slide. For those that are looking employment or know that someone who is looking employment, ATU right now is accepting applications for an experienced professional to join its legal, regulatory, and compliance department as a compliance officer. So if you have anyone that you know is looking for employment during this time, hey, ATU is actually hiring during COVID-19.
Yes.
So yes, please help us get the word out there that they are looking at a compliance officer. If you know someone that is qualified, they can email their applications to hr@atubvi.com. That is hr@atubvi.com. Before the day is out, this advertisement will be on hirebvi.com website. so they can get more information about it, the job duties, the job description, the job summary, and whatever other requirements are needed. But in the meantime, if they know that they are qualified, they can send their applications to hr@atubvi.com. Next, HiBeaver actually have an app. So we have an app for that, just like everything else. It is free, so you can download our app. It's on your app store, in your Google Play Store, or in your app store for Apple users. So we do have an app for that. Please download our app and support the cause. It is free, and you will also obtain notifications of what is going on with HiBeaver, of other sessions like this one and other things that we do. We do have it on our app. Okay. And lastly, we really appreciate each of you that took your time out of your busy schedule to tune in. And we want to encourage you all to, it is an uncertain time. It is critical. It is challenging. But hey, we are here to support each other. We will have other sessions going forward. It will be every Friday at 1 p.m. So you can look out for that information. There were a few of y'all that did say thanks for this session, and we do appreciate you as well for tuning in.
Just one thing.
Go ahead.
Just one thing. I just wanted everyone to see a face in this time of social distancing. You know, it's rare and it's precious when you can connect. So I just want to say hello to everyone. Hopefully you can see me clearly. And Rekeema, again, thank you. This initiative is awesome. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. It's so important that we just remain connected after this. You'll have all of the contact information. Let's stay in dialogue, because as leaders, we need to be there for each other, especially in this uncertain time. And I believe that each one of us on this call, on this Zoom call, is a light. So please continue to shine your light in the midst of all this darkness of the pandemic. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Sandra. I'm actually jealous because for some reason my video will not allow me to connect. So for that reason, I'm unable to show my face. But if I could, I probably would. Hopefully for the next session, I'll have that up and running. We know how technology can be at times. But thank you again, Sandra. It was a great session. And at this time, we'll be tuning out. You guys can take our information from the screen. HiBeaver's information is on the screen. You're already registered, so we do have your email addresses, and we will definitely be in touch with you guys. Again, thank you so much. And hey, today's Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.